Hi, it's Ryan from Knights Around a Table. You know, I've never done a top 10 list of my favorite games of all time ever. And that's not going to change, but I've been invited by another host of another channel to come onto his or her channel to do exactly that. There are going to be three of us talking about our favorite games. And this is all part of something very exciting that I've had in the works now for a couple of months, and I've been teasing it to the folks I hang out with on the Discord channel, saying something huge is coming. And I think when this video releases, probably Monday, then that cat's going to be out of the bag and everybody will know. And I'm really excited for everybody to know. It's an announcement that is going to change the way this channel operates a little bit. It's going to make things more fun and more exciting to watch, and it's just good news all around. It's going to be great. I can't wait to let you know. Now, like I say, I've been teasing this secret in the Discord channel for a couple of months now. And if you've never popped into the Discord channel, I invite you to. It was originally built for the people who support me on Patreon to come and hang out with me. But you don't have to be a Patreon supporter of mine to jump in and hang out and talk. But if you are a Patreon backer, I've got a couple of special channels where I'll make announcements and I'll talk to you about secret behind the scenes stuff. So you get like a little view into that world. Except for this big secret that I've been teasing. That's kind of still under wraps. But I think by Monday. Now, if that video is available right now, I'll put a little link up at the top. If you're watching this on YouTube where you see that link, you can click it and go watch that video now. If it's not available, you won't see anything there. But I'm gonna blast it out to everybody on YouTube who's subscribing so that you'll know when that video is ready. Please do go watch it. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. And join us on Discord. I say this from the bottom of my heart. The people who I'm hanging out with on this Discord server are some of the nicest, most wonderful folks I know, and I genuinely look forward to getting up every day and being able to talk with them on those chat channels. It's a great place to be and a burgeoning little community. I hope you'll join us there. Now, what are we doing in this video? Well, I put together my top 10 list of games that I'm going to talk about in the other video on the other channel. And I felt bad because there were a few games that I really enjoy that didn't quite make the cut. So I thought that I could do a video of 5 or so honorable mention games that I think are excellent in their own right, but they all just kind of slightly miss the mark and don't quite make it into the top 10. So I haven't put them in any particular order, but since people like numbers and their orders, I'll just throw them in sort of randomly in an order of 5. So number 5 of the games that didn't quite make it into my top 10 favorite games of all time list, Orleans. I love Orleans. Orleans is a fantastic game, and I picked it up after a whole vision quest of trying to get a game that was a deck builder that didn't use cards like Dominion did, because I don't like shuffling. So I went through Couriers and that didn't work, and I went through King's Forge and that wasn't very good at all. And I finally found these bag builder games, Altiplano and Orleans was the more highly recommended one. So that's the one that I picked up, and I ended up really, really liking it. Now, why didn't it make my top 10? It's because of the theme, really. Like, Orleans takes place in a French town in the Middle Ages where people are dying of the plague, and the coolest thing that you can do in life is build part of a cathedral kind of thing. And it's like, I don't know if I really want to spend a whole lot of time there. It's like the coolest thing you can do is travel to the next town over and buy some cheese. I don't know, it just, it didn't do a whole lot for me theme-wise. Mechanically, I think it's a really clever and interesting game, and there's lots of really cool stuff going on in it. I quite like it. So part of the issue with board games with me is convincing other people to play them with me. And if you get a theme like the one in Orleans, and it's illustrated by someone like Clemens Franz, where maybe it looks tiny bit garbage, it's just that much harder to rope people in or convince people that they're going to have a really good time with it. So, I mean, it's excellent. It's an excellent game. I've talked to you about the Trade and Intrigue expansion and the Invasion expansion, and I've played some modules from both of those. I've had a really good time with it. I really, really like it. But it's a game that I play with my friend Michael Todd, who also likes games and recognizes good game mechanics and an excellently constructed game, and can maybe look past some of the thematic shortcomings or the amateurish illustration. That's right, I said amateurish. Poor Clemens Franz. I'm going to meet him face to face someday, and I'm going to find out he's very good at boxing. Number 4, Scythe. Now, Scythe is an interesting one because Scythe is one of these games where, do you ever really like a movie, but then other people are like, oh, you like that movie's crap for this and this and that reason. My enjoyment of Scythe is diminished by the number of people who don't like Scythe and have been vociferous about how much they don't like Scythe. which kind of stinks. And again, I'll make another movie comparison. I think that it got a bit of a bum rap in certain circles because, like a movie that has a trailer that doesn't really advertise it in the correct way or tell you what the movie actually is, I think that's what happened with Scythe. I think people were expecting more of a war game, and when it wasn't that, they got mad and they're like, oh, the combat stinks. Well, it's not supposed to be great because it's not really a combat game. It's a Euro game where it's like Agricola, where you can shoot each other occasionally or threaten to. So it's not the best game that I've ever played, but it's a very competent, very capable game, and it's worth, I think, me spending time on. The biggest knock against it for me is being Canadian. I live in a country where we have about 2 days of summer, and we guard them zealously. So I don't really enjoy the prospect of sitting down at a table where all the artwork is a bleak, desolate, wintry landscape that's cold and snowy, and it's communism, and there's big, gross, dirty metal machines. It's all a bit kind of depressing, really. I generally like warmer, happier themes. And this is why I don't go for stuff like Power Grid, and why, despite people saying that Brass Lancashire is an excellent game, I just can't get past the dark, sooty look of it. But like Scythe, people say Brass Lancashire is beautiful in its own right, like it's beautiful in its ugliness. I get that. The paintings are gorgeous in the game. The game is inspired by and based around entirely the painter's work, Mr. Werewolf's work. And I appreciate the aesthetic value of it, it didn't quite get there. Now, despite that, I have been amassing all of the bits of Scythe. So I've been buying the metal coins and the extra cards and the expansions, and I might even spring for that. This is ridiculous, and I feel dumb admitting it, but they've got a gigantic empty box that you can put all your Scythe stuff in, and I think the box costs like 30, 40 bucks or something ridiculous. So I'm borderline about to buy that, and I feel like a fool for doing it. But I do like high production values, and I do like overproduced things, and I do like improved game components. So all of that stuff, I mean, it's right up my alley with Scythe, and I do think the game is enjoyable. Number 3 on my list of games that didn't quite make my top 10 list is Tzolk'in. Tzolk'in, again, an excellent game. It's gorgeous. I mean, I have almost no qualms with the presentation of it. Those gears that turn other gears and the rondelle mechanic, that is amazing. All of it is amazing. It's amazing. It's great. I'd love to play the game. The reason why it just kind of slips off my top 10 list is because it's weird to say. It's almost too good of a game. Does that make sense? It's almost too mechanically excellent at the expense of fun. Does that make any sense? Like, it's like you're playing in a clock, almost literally inside a clock. This could be a re-themed clock and you'd be okay. And you have to be so meticulous in your planning, and you have to be running multiple threads. It's like you're in a computer and you gotta think like a computer to play the game well. And it's all very stressful, I find, and it's just a little bit too tight. So there are other games that are like this, like Lorenzo Il Magnifico is another one where I recognize that it's a good game, but the gaminess of it and the tightness of everything makes it a little less, like it could be more generous and it could be more loose and a little bit more freewheeling and fun, and I'd enjoy it a little bit more. It's still an excellent game. I really like it. I picked up the expansion, which I talked to you about a few videos ago. Great game. Didn't quite get there for me. Number 2 is the Voyages of Marco Polo. Now, the Voyages of Marco Polo has a mechanic that I absolutely adore. It's a dice worker placement game. That's where your workers are dice, you roll the dice, you get different pips on them, and the spaces, depending on what the pips are on your die, you put them on the spaces and you get to do different things. It's cool. I really like that mechanic a lot, and I like a lot of games with that mechanic. And in fact, the number 2 game, I believe, on my list is a dice worker placement game. And I wonder if you can guess which game that is. I think I've only mentioned it once in one other video, but you'll see if you go watch the other video. I've succinctly pinned down the reason why I really like the Voyages of Marco Polo, but it didn't make it into my top 10 list. Again, it kind of comes down to theme. I like a theme that's really resonant and I can immerse myself in it, and it's a place that I'd want to be. And that time period, the time period of Marco Polo in the 1300s, because I study history and I know it well, I don't know if I want to be there so much. I mean, I've listened to the Hardcore History podcast about the Mongols, and they're not cool people to hang out with if you're not one of them. You're gonna die. But I think the biggest issue that I have with the Voyages of Marco Polo is that the mechanic and the theme just kind of miss each other like this. Because Marco Polo was an explorer, and you are moving your pawns around a big map in the Voyages of Marco Polo, but it is so darn difficult to do that. Voyaging is one of the most challenging and expensive things to do in the game, which is bizarre for a game that's ostensibly themed voyaging, right? And it's called the Voyages of Marco Polo. You'd think it would be a little bit easier to move around that map. So I think, you know, it was an interesting choice of theme, and I don't know if I would have picked it if it was so difficult to move around. Maybe I would have picked a time period or a situation if I still went with a map where the difficulty of movement was reflected. Maybe Hannibal going over the Alps with his elephants or whatever happened. Was it elephants? Was it Chianti? I can't even remember. So just, I think because of that, it's a great game, don't get me wrong. I picked up the expansion, never played it, but I'm excited to. And I haven't played the sequel, but I heard that it makes improvements on the base game. But it keeps that theme, and I presume that moving around is just as hard in the sequel as it is in the base game. I don't know why I presume that. I don't know why I just said that. I have no evidence to base that on. But just because of that weird disconnect with a game that's called Voyages, about voyaging, where voyaging is one of the most challenging things I've ever done in any game, it didn't quite make my top 10 list. And the number one game that didn't quite make it on my top 10 list of games is The Castles of Burgundy. Again, all 5 of these games are fantastic games. I enjoy them very, very much. They're not quite there. And the reason why The Castles of Burgundy isn't quite there is, again, down to theme. If you couldn't tell, I'm a big theme guy, and there are certain themes I gravitate towards. And when the theme meshes with the mechanic, boy, I'm in paradise. If I want to be in the setting that the game presents, doing the things that the game lets me do, I'm at my happiest. Now, do I want to be a 1400s estate owner in Bologna, France? Building a marketplace on my land? None of that stuff is stuff that appeals to me, and it looks very, very washed out and drab. Just like the Voyages of Marco Polo, though, it is like a dice worker placement game. You're rolling dice, and depending on the numbers you get certain things from different depots, and you get to put those on your land. That part's cool. Mechanically, it's an excellent game. We had this game on our 10 by 10 list for this year, which we quickly abandoned, but when we did play it a couple times, my family all really enjoyed it, and we recognized it as a mechanically excellent game that was fun to play, horrible to look at, and, you know, a nice place to visit, but I wouldn't want to live there. I think one of the people who watches this stuff on YouTube commented on it and called it aggressively boring. I think that's a good way to put it. I don't know why all these Eurogame themes have to be so off-puttingly bland. And they all seem to have to do with farm animals too. Like, you gotta collect all the pigs and you score the pigs. Like, this game has that, and Keyflower, the Farmers, has that, and Carcassonne has that. And you gotta kind of wonder, like, why are all these board game designers so fixated on farm animals? But I digress. Great game, mediocre theme. They tried to fix that, I think, in the 20th anniversary edition, just by taking the saturation slider and cranking that right up. Yeah, brighter browns. I don't know if that quite did it. Again, despite my criticisms, it's a fun game. I enjoy the game, and what's really nice about the Castles of Burgundy is if you're on a budget, it's one of the least expensive, meaty, great games out there. So if you haven't picked it up yet, definitely add it to your list. If you want to click my Amazon affiliate link, then I will get fractions of pennies. So that's it. That's my list of games that are great, but not great enough to make it into my top 10. Thank you for watching. As usual, I'd like to know which games are on your list that didn't quite squeak into your top 10. And more importantly, what are the reasons why you would keep a game out of your top 10? An excellent game, but just didn't quite make it. But what are your reasons? It looks like my reason is mostly theme. The theme didn't gel for me. It's not in there. What's the hill that you're going to die on? Let me know in the comments below, and we can chat about it. Or if you want to pop into that Discord server, I'd love to see you there too. For those of you who have been helping me out on Patreon to make this channel all that it can be, thank you again so much. And you know what? We're almost there, this big exciting announcement. Boy, it's going to blow the doors off. If you would like to help blow future doors off, then definitely consider hopping over to Patreon and helping me out. Thank you so much for watching this one, and I'll catch you in the next one. Did you just watch that whole thing? Oh, hey, to 100% this video, click the badge to subscribe and then click the bell to get notifications when I've got new stuff.